Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Teres Hashem Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach. As with great pleasure, we broadcast up here from the beautiful South Fallsburg, New York, in our bungalow from Elmshade Estates, and we begin with Hakaras HaTov to TorahAnytime.com for giving us a magnificent platform to teach Torah all over the world, to Kol HaLashon for giving us its global network, Torah Communications Network, YouTube, our subscribers, our Talmidim in the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev of Fairways Lakewood, our wonderful Zoomers, our subscribers, and all others that are watching us on different mediums like Facebook and the like, YouTube. Tonight we have a split group that is sponsoring. Half of the sponsorship is by Binyamin Rivlin, who I met at the Q&A in Flatbush last night, and he's doing it for Hakaras HaTov for the Shiur, and Le'ili Nishmas his Zayda, Yitzchak ben Avram Yehuda Alevi, his neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden, and be Eliyat Melitz Yoshev for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. The other half is being sponsored by David Zitnik of Flatbush, Le'ili Nishmas, the fallen soldiers of this war and that defended our land bravely, and a refuah shlema for those that were injured, for the safety of Klal Yisrael world over. Thank you very much. To sponsor a Shiur, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. In this week's Parsha, it speaks about Shabbos and Yom Tov. Uv'yoyim HaShabbos. So we know that we refer to Shabbos in our davening as Chemdas Hayomim Oisa Karasa, the desire of the days, or it could be the desirous of the days. You are called Zeicher L'Maaseh Bereshis, as a memory to the creation of the world. So, what does it mean that Shabbos is Chemdas Hayomim? So it's interesting that the Targum Yerushalmi on the Pasuk in Bereshis, Vayechal Elikim Es Yom Hashvi, that Hashem finished the seventh day. So the Targum says Vayechal V'chamad. Chamad, of course, means desire. Right? It means a lashon of chemda, or loy sakmai. You shouldn't desire. So you see that the Targum, when it refers to Shabbos, Vayechal Elikim es Yom Hashvi, it says v'chamad Elikim, that Hashem desires. So that would be a source that it's Chemdas Hayomim, the desired one of the days. Now, what does that mean? That means that Hashem desires the Shabbos day. And since we are commanded to emulate Hashem, v'holachta b'drachav, to go in Hashem's ways, as it says, Zeh keli v'anveyu, this is my God, and I will glorify Him. And anveyu is a corruption of ani v'hu, I will be like He. The best way to glorify Hashem is to imitate Him. That's the mitzvah of Alachta B'drachav. That's the mitzvah of Voy Sidbak, to cleave to Hashem. Ma'u rachem, afata rachem, ma'u chanan, afata chanan. Just like Hashem visited Avram when he was sick, we're supposed to visit the sick. Just like Hashem clothed the naked by Avram and Chava, we're supposed to clothe the needy. Just like Hashem comforted Yitzchak when Avram passed away, we're supposed to comfort the mourners. That's the great mitzvah of Alachta B'drachav. So if Hashem desires the Shabbos, so we're supposed to desire the Shabbos. Indeed, that's they say that when Reb Shlomo Alkavitz made L'chadaidi, this is the meaning of L'chadaidi. L'chadaidi, of course, is the Rebbeinu Shalom. L'chadaidi, come my beloved, Likras Kala. Let us together greet the Kala. Just like the Chassan desires the Kala, that Hashem desires the Shabbos. It's a chemdas hayomim. And that's what it says, Vishamru v'nei Yisrael es ha-Shabbos. Now literally that means that the Bnei Yisrael should guard the Shabbos. But Vishamru means something else. Like it says by Yosef's dream, V'oviv shamar es hadavar, that his father looked forward to the fulfillment of the dreams. Vishamru means to look forward. So Vishamru v'nei Yisrael es ha-Shabbos. We're supposed to look forward to the Shabbos. We're supposed to pine for the Shabbos. That's why the Gdolei Eretz Yisrael said what a big inyan it is to light the Shabbos candles 10 minutes early. Reb Chaim Kanievsky would tell a lot of people that came to him with different problems, with a sick child, he would say that they should bring in the Shabbos 10 minutes early. That's showing that Shabbos is desirable. That's a very big thing. And it's interesting that, at the end of Shabbos, we prolong the Shabbos. It's brought down that when the Chazan by Marav says V'hurachem, he should go V'hurachem to prolong it. Now, the reason that's customarily given is because after Shabbos, on Shabbos, there's an amnesty from Gehenna. The wicked that are in Gehenna get free from Gehenna on Shabbos. The fire doesn't burn anywhere. There is an exception. The Zohar says that those people that didn't keep Shabbos when they were alive, they won't get the amnesty. But otherwise, there is an amnesty, and therefore we know that the Rishon will return once the weekday comes, so we prolong it to give them a little bit more respite from Gehenna. But besides that, there's something else. We want to show that we want to keep Shabbos longer. I mean, Shabbos is desirous. It's chemdas hayomim. That's why there's always a shaila. What should you light first? The Havdalah? What should you do first? The Havdalah or Neiros Chanukah? Right? So the argument to do the Havdalah first is Tadir v'she'ena Tadir Kaidem. Right? Havdalah is more constant. It's more frequent. And we have a rule, that which is more frequent goes first. That's why, for example, if it's Shabbos Reish Chodesh, you say Ritzei first, and then you say Yalav Yavai, because Ritzei is more frequent than Yalav Yavai. Ritzei is every Shabbos. And if it's Shabbos Reish Chodesh Tev and Chanukah, we say Ritzei first, then Yalav Yavai. Well, anyway, we say Al Anisim earlier, because we say Al Anisim in Noidalcha. But always we say that which is more frequent first. So that would be an argument to say Havdalah first, because it's more frequent than the Menorah. But on the other hand, you have two arguments to do the Menorah first. First of all, Pisumei Nisa Adav Tvei, and also we want to prolong the Havdalah, Shaloi Tei Shabbos Alav Kamasi. We don't want to show that Shabbos is a burden, that we want to divest ourselves with it, so we'll prolong the Havdalah. That all shows that Shabbos is desirous. That's why there are some people that already have a beautiful minig that they set the Shabbos table already Thursday night. And they do that to show how they are anxious to bring in the Shabbos. They say over in a similar way, Rav Ben Zion Bergman, who is Rav Shach's Bechor, he said that in Rav Shach's home, they set the Seder table with a beautiful white tablecloth and all of the cases already a few days before the Seder. And Rav Shach would so much be machshiv the Seder table that he would insist on learning on that table. So setting the Shabbos table already at Thursday night shows a desire, a chemda for Shabbos. Now there is another pshat in Chemdas Hayomim. It's actually a medrash. I made a bracha already. There's a medrash. The medrash says that Originally there were 6 days, each of 28 hours. And the days got together and they said they want a king. So each day gave 4 hours, and therefore 6 times 4 is 24. So instead of having 6 days of 28 hours, now they had 7 days of 24 hours. And therefore, that's the meaning of Chemdas Hayomim, that Shabbos was the desire of the days. It's a different translation of Chemdas Hayomim, that it was the desire of the days. And by the way, this fits in very good according to the Nusach Svard, where in the Yom every morning we say Hayom Yom Echad L'Shabbos, Hayom Yom Sheni L'Shabbos. Each day gave to Shabbos. And this is also, there are those people that buy something every day of the week for Shabbos. They want to be Mekayim every day of the week. Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kachay. It's a beautiful minig. And what they're doing is also commemorating, according to this, that each of the days actually gave to create the Shabbos. And that gives, of course, another idea of what it means Shabbos HaMalka, because they appointed Shabbos as the king of the days. Yaleinu Shabeach reflects on a sad thing that he experienced. There was a man who was suffering from dementia. And already on Sunday, he would ask his family, is it time for Adlakas Neiros? And then a little bit later, he would say again, is it time for Adlakas Neiros? And this was on Sunday. So, Reb Zilberstein said that rather than get frustrated with him, you should realize that every time he does that, he is fulfilling the mitzvah of Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. He's fearing Hashem. And I want to add, he's also fulfilling the mitzvah of Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Kachay. He's constantly thinking about Shabbos. Now, we have to know, as I'm a Rav in a retirement community, so unfortunately, since it's all older people, Lo Yaleinu, I see sometimes people suffering with dementia, with senility. We have to know how important it is to treat such a person with respect, patience, and sensitivity. It says, as we learned recently in Bava Basra, that under the luchais in the Aron, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, was placed the shivrei luchais, the fragments of the luchas. And why were the fragments of the luchas placed there? There would be a very big argument that they shouldn't be placed there, because the fragments of the luchas could be mekatreg on Klal Yisrael. The evidence of the fragments showed, why were they destroyed? Because Moshe Rabbeinu saw the Egel Hazav. So the fragments of the luchas always remind Hashem of the Egel, of the sin of the Egel. We would think that maybe we shouldn't keep it in the Kodesh Kodashim. Maybe we shouldn't allow the fragments to remind Hashem, so to speak. Of course, Hashem doesn't forget. But why should it be over there as something that points to Klal Yisrael's great sin of the golden calf? And the reason why it's there is to teach us a lesson that supersedes this consideration. And that is that we should have respect even for a zokein sheshachach es talmudai. We should have respect for an older person who forgot his learning because of senility, because of dementia, because of advanced old age. This lesson is so important. This lesson of sensitivity is so important that we risk the fact and we keep it in the Kodesh Kodashim, in the Holy of Holies. We only keep in the Holy of Holies that which is of supreme importance. This is of supreme importance. People could easily make fun of a person. he comes in and he starts to try to put on tefillin on Shabbos, or he starts to daven a regular weekday Shemona Esrei when it's really Shabbos. It's easy to get exasperated, but we have to know that such a person should be dealt with great honor. And we learn that out from what's placed in the Kodesh Kodashim. In the Q&A, one of the questions, this was a question actually that came from Yossi Tov. It's about a woman that he called had ESP, Erev Shabbos psychosis. And they would constantly fight on Shabbos. And the husband would say no matter what he would do, it was never good enough. His wife was always on edge because she was balancing many balls in the air, the kugel and the cholent and the kids in the bath and cleaning the house and it was just overwhelming. And the tension, you could cut it with a knife. So he said, what is a man to do? So I mentioned that this is an old problem, and the Ben Ish Chai already said that from the first day of creation, when man sinned in the 10th hour, and it caused him to separate from his wife actually 130 years. When you lived till 930, you could afford 130 years separation. Right? But Koyach was given to the Satan to disrupt Shalom Bayis. And he said that since Friday night is a special time between husband and wife, therefore the Satan is already trying to wreck the mood. So in Eretz Yisrael, there was a man by the name of Rav Price who came up with the idea to make a kollel where people will go and learn an hour and 15 minutes before Shabbos. It's kind of an amazing idea that he wanted to forestall this problem. So he said that this is a very, very dangerous time in a home, from the 10th hour to the 12th hour. If the men would go to learn, so they be absent, and there won't be this chance for a wrecking ball to assault the home. And the idea took off. And what's interesting is that Rav Price himself asked the Gedolim what to do with the Gemara. The Gemara says that you're supposed to tell your wife before Shabbos hadliku es haner, to light the candles so that she should light on time. And that's a halacha psuka in Shulchan Aruch. But if the husband is going to be at the kollel, how could he do this? So it's interesting, the Reb Chaim said he could make it a shliach. He could appoint one of the children or a daughter as a shliach. Rav Steinman said, if necessary, it could be considered samach l'chashecha already an hour and a half before Shabbos. And it's also interesting that today, when everybody has a cell phone, so you could call up. You could call on the phone, let's say she lights 18 minutes, so 22 minutes before, she should be prepared, she should have the phone there, and he could tell her, honey, make sure you have to light in 4 minutes in order to fulfill it. It's interesting that Rav Steinman said, and even if nothing is possible, then it shouldn't stand in the way of Limud HaTorah, and he should do without it, and go to learn. And a lot of homes were saved of this problem. Of course, it's not possible. A wife might need the help, and she can't handle it by herself. But this is one answer how to deal with the problem of the raging Yetzer Hara. As I cited from Rabbi Fran said that you should say to yourself, the only reason why I'm getting hot under the collar is because it's Erev Shabbos after the 10th hour, and the Satan has this unusual power, and therefore that will hold you back from getting upset. There was an incident we should be saved from such temptations, but there was an incident where, because of worries of parnasa, because of worries of one's livelihood, a person succumbed to the Nisayan. Even though El Al doesn't fly on Shabbos, but their administrative offices are open, and he ended up working for El Al on Shabbos for 4 years. Afterwards, he regretted terribly his public desecration of Shabbos, and he calculated all the money he made during Shabbos for those 4 years, and he decided that in order to atone for his Chilul Shabbos, besides, of course, asking Hashem for forgiveness and doing charata and saying vidui, he decided to tabulate all the profit of the 4 years and give it to a kollel where they learned Hilchos Shabbos. And the Rav told him that he should know that what he's doing is following in the footsteps of Yaakov Avinu. Of course, Yaakov Avinu Chas v'Shalom wasn't Mechal Shabbos, but Yaakov Avinu, when he instructed Yosef to bury him, so he said, "B'kivri, you should bury me in the grave, asher karisi li be'eretz Canaan." Now, literally, that means karisi li, which means I dug for me. Now, it's not likely that he dug his grave all those years before. I mean, he was already in Mitzrayim 17 years. So Rashi says, what's pshat karisi li? Karisi is a lashon also of a kri, of a pile. So Rashi says that he made a pile of all the silver and gold that he made when he was in the house of Lavan, and he took it, he made a pile of it, and he gave it to Esav for his portion in the Maras HaMachpelah. See, there was room for 2 people, for Yaakov and Leah, and since Yaakov buried Leah there, Leah died young, Leah died in her 40s, since he buried Leah there, so the other grave belonged to Esav. So Yaakov made a pile of all the silver and gold that he made in the house of Lavan, and he gave it to Esav for that chelik. That's why later on, when Esav claimed that the other part is his, and they wanted to send back Naphtali, who was an Ayola Shlucha, to go back to Eretz Mitzrayim and get the shtar, Chushim was upset, and he didn't hear what was going on, and he said, "What's the holdup?" And they pointed to Esav, and he killed Esav, and his head rolled in. So we see Esav was, again, being a con man. Really, Yaakov gave him a king's ransom for it. Now, why did Yaakov give him a king's ransom? Now, of course, Yaakov wanted to be buried next to Leah. To be buried next to a wife is a very, very, very big thing. Very big thing. We know that because when Yaakov first met Rachel, so it says that he met her, Vayisa es koiloi vayevk. He raised his voice and he cried. And Rashi says one of the reasons he cried because when he kissed her, he was suspected, but he also cried because he saw that he wouldn't be buried with her. Right? Rachel, who was Mavaka al Banea, she wouldn't be buried with him. She would be buried al Derech Beis Lechem. Right? So therefore we see the fact that he cried, it's a big thing. So he wanted to be, he didn't want Esav to be buried next to her. She should be buried next to her Rasha. But the Be'er Yosef says another reason why he gave so much, the money, he made a lot of silver and gold, The reason why he gave it to Esav, he perhaps paid more for his one slot than Avraham Avinu paid to Ephraim for the whole Ma'aseh Machpelah. He gave him all the money from 22 years. And he gave him. So the Be'er Yosef says, because he realized that when he was working by Lavan, he didn't fulfill two mitzvahs. Yeshivas Eretz Yisrael, and he didn't fulfill Kibbut Av V'Aim. That's what it says, Vayira Yaakov Ma'od, because he was afraid of Esav's schus of Yeshivas Eretz Yisrael and Kibbut Av. So therefore, to atone for that, he bought the kever in Eretz Yisrael to be buried in Eretz Yisrael, showing a chashivas for Eretz Yisrael, and he wanted to be buried in the place of his ancestors, in the place of his father and mother, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Avram and Sarah, and therefore he took all that money when he was bereft of these two mitzvahs to show that he wanted to fulfill these two mitzvahs. And over here, therefore also, this man, to atone for the fact that he didn't fulfill Shabbos for 4 years, he took all that money to give to a kollel that is dedicated for the learning of Shabbos. We should know also that many of us have things to make up for on Shabbos. There are people who squandered much time on Shabbos, reading newspapers and doing other frivolous things, when 1 hour of learning, the Ben Ish Chai says 1 hour of learning on Shabbos is equal to 1,000 hours of learning during the week. People could, in order to make up for what they wasted on Shabbos, they could give money to Tomchei Shabbos, to places that give out packages on Shabbos, utilizing this idea that we learned from Yaakov Avinu. The Tufchi Yabiu relates that one time Reb Zilberstein went to be Mavaker Chayla Reb Brody, the Rav in Tel Aviv. And Reb Brody showed him a person that was there visiting him, and said this person is a Baal Tshuva Amiti, a true Baal Tshuva. So Reb Zilberstein asked him his story, and he said, I must confess that I used to be a barber, and I used to be open the entire Friday night. Now he says, why a Jew in Eretz Yisrael should have to be open Friday night? So he said, my customer base were pilots. Were pilots and stewards from El Al. And the only time that they had time, the rest of the week they were flying. El Al doesn't fly on Shabbos. So they had Friday night available. So a very good amount of my parnasa was Friday night. So Reb Brody threw down a challenge to me and told me that close Friday night for the next 4 weeks, for a month, and at the end of the month you'll see not only will you be making the same, you'll see a 30% bump in your profits. And the man wasn't a lahachasnik, and he decided to try it. It wouldn't be bad to keep Shabbos. He decided to try it, and he didn't find a 30% bump. He found a 50% bump. And slowly he became a Shomer Torah mitzvahs. So Reb Zilberstein said he wondered if such a thing was allowed, because it says in the Torah, there's a law, lo yisnasun es Hashem Elokeichem. You're not supposed to test Hashem. Here you're testing Hashem. So he asked Rav Elyashiv, and Rav Elyashiv said that this is, Daniel did this. They told Daniel that he has to eat pasbag. Pasbag, when he was in employment of the king, the Goyish king, pasbag was basav chalav, meat and milk. So he said, let me eat zaroinim, let me eat seeds, and test in 10 days if I have the strength as all the others. And he was stronger, all the other people, after eating only seeds for 10 days. He desisted on seeds. And Esther Amalka insisted on seeds. That's why we have a minig on Purim to eat seeds. It's one of the ancient minhagim. I have a silver vessel, and I put the seeds in the silver vessel, sunflower seeds and pepitas, because that's a minig yoshin, to eat seeds. Now, it's also interesting that on Shabbos we're promised, Ashrei kol choicha l'sashlumei chayfa. Fortunate are those that look to be paid double. Right? Shabbos, we said, is Mishpah Cotton Shin, is Mishpah Cotton 3. Beis and Sof is Mishpah Cotton 6. Because Shabbos, the result will be that we should expect double. By the way, by tzedakah also, we could test Hashem. By tzedakah, it says, Hashem said, Uvechanuni na bazais. Test me in this. Im lo harikaisi lachem, if I don't empty and shower you with bracha ad belidai, blessing at sheyivlu sivseisechem eloi medai, until your lips tire from saying enough. Ba'arba asa yom, the Parsha also talks about Pesach. Ba'arba asa yom l'chodesh, the 14th of the month will be Pesach LaHashem. That's when you bring the carbon Pesach on the 14th, getting ready to eat it on the night of the 15th. So there was a incident where a man burnt his chametz, like we do, right? We do in the morning, right? After the hour, first we can't eat chametz, and then the next hour we have to burn our chametz, right? So after we do that, we make the second bittul. We make the first bittul in the night when we do bedika, and then we make the second bittul, and we say that our chametz should be batul, v'lahave hefker ka'arada'ar. That's what we say, liftel. Let it be nullified, and let it be ownerless, like the earth on the ground, the dust of the ground. So it happened that Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, the great Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, heard a man say this, and he made a comment, lav dafka. The man looked at him in surprise. What do you mean lav dafka? I want it to be like Afar Da'ara. So Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul gave him strong musar. He says, we say another time that something should be like offer. In our davening, we say in Elikai Netzar, v'nafshi ka'offer lakol tiyah. Our soul should be like earth, which means that just like earth, when it's stepped on, it doesn't yell. So also, even if we're stepped upon, we won't react. He said, but I saw today in shul that somebody passed you in davening, and by accident he stepped on your foot, and in anger you gave him a smack. So obviously you're not like offer. You don't hold offer is quiet. You don't hold offer is nothing. You gave him a smack back. So when you said your chametz should be like offer, ka'afadai, I said lav dafka. Actually, the tefillah of nafshi ka'offer lakol tiyeh is that we shouldn't react. V'lim kalalai nafshi sidam, those that curse me or those that they take me lightly, I should be quiet. If we do that, of course we protect ourselves from machlokes, we protect ourselves from all kinds of trouble, of lashon hara, and of course the Shilah says that if we behave this way, well, we have the last laugh, because just like the earth is quiet, but it ends up covering the people that step on it. So also, if we don't act, then Hashem will take care of our insult. We should let Hashem take care of the score. Now, the Chassam Sofer says a fascinating thing about the nafshi ka'afala kol tiyah. It's something that is actually a mission of life. There's only one time, in Pirkei Avos, it teaches us of all the different midos, all the different measures of man. Midos is a specific thing because we know that there's a shvil azav. We're supposed to do the golden path, which is the derech ha'emtza. The midah is always to know what is normal. It's a measure. The Rambam calls it deos, attitudes or values. But the Meiri has something known as Sefer HaMidos LaMeiri. Midos is a measure because, everybody wonders what's normal. There's your normal, there's my normal. So the idea is to get the correct measure, to know what the middle way is. Like I always say, the tallest finger is the middle finger, the smallest fingers are the thumb and the pinky. The smallest way is the radical way. But not when it comes to humility, not when it comes to anger, and not when it comes to humility. And this is the only time that it says ma'od twice in the entire Pirkei Avos is ma'od have a shval ruach. Now, it wouldn't be enough if the Mishnah says have a shval ruach, be lowly of spirit. Then it could have said ma'od have a shval ruach. But it says ma'od. In other words, a person should go overboard with this. Overboard with humility. But then the Mishnah says something which is a little bit perplexing. Shetikvas enoish rima. The hope of a man is maggots. Now we know that the body decomposes and gets full of maggots. It's kind of a jarring thought. But what does it mean, shetikvas enoish rima? Tikva means a hope. Right? There's a song, a tikva, a hope. What does it mean, shetikvas enoish rima? That the hope of man is maggots. Who hopes to be invaded, that his flesh should decompose and be invaded by maggots? I don't know anybody that hopes that, but that's a Mishnah. Shetikvas enoish rima. What does it mean? So the Chassam Sofer says an amazing pshat. The Chassam Sofer says that when a person gets to the next world, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to say, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And the person is not going to have any answer. How did you say all those davenings without paying attention? You didn't even focus on me. I don't understand. You knew that a Jew is supposed to learn Torah. Why did you learn so little Torah? You knew you weren't supposed to look at things. Why did you know you weren't supposed to talk about people? Hashem is going to hit us with so many questions, and we're going to be speechless. So the Chassam Sofer says at the end of the day we'll only have one defense. And that's Rebbeinu Shalom, Avinu Malkeinu, Zachreinu ki afer anachnu. We were just flesh and blood. We couldn't stand up to the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is a Malach Elikim. He overpowered us. Avinu Malkeinu Zachreinu ki afer anachnu. We were just earth. Says Chassam Sofer, Tikvas enoish rima. The only hope that we have is that we're but maggots. What are we? He said, but the only way that a person could do that is if he acted with his family, he acted with people in a humble way. If he was arrogant with everybody, then he won't be able to say, Hashem, I was a bus of Adam. Hashem said, you didn't act like that. You acted like a know-it-all. You acted like a lord all your life. The only tikva a person has, tikvas enashrina, that's another kavanah of nafshi ka'afala koltia. Let me be humble with people, so that I should be able to claim to Hashem, what could I do? I was just a bas of Adam. Before we go further, I want to again thank our split squad of sponsors tonight, Binyamin Rivlin from Flatbush, Rakar Satoiv for the Shiurim, and Lila Nishmas Zaydi Yitzhak Ben Avram Yudah Levi. Also, the other half by David Zitnik of Flatbush, Lila Nishmas, the fallen soldiers, Refuah for those that are injured, and for safety of all of Klal Yisrael. We don't have a sponsor for next week's Parsha, so I'll already start asking if you would like to sponsor. 718-916-3100. Text me, 718-916-3100, or rmmwsi@aol.com. By the way, we just printed again another 500 copies of Power Benching. So now a hardcover of Power Benching is finally available. If you want me to mail it to you, an autographed copy, again, text me, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. That's $25 plus the postage that is on the envelope. I'll send it to you with a stamped return envelope. So text me if you want a copy of Powered Benching. Yom Trua Yia Lachem. A day of Trua, it should be for you. Referring to Rosh Hashanah. It's coming up. It's coming up. You know, we're already past the 17th of Tammuz, right? We're getting closer already to Av, which is only a month before Elul. It's creeping up on us. So this is something that my Talmidim know. I always say it over from the Sefer Oisri Lagefen. In the Sefer Oisri Lagefen, it says that there are some people that by Ma'ariv on Rosh Hashanah, realizing that the next morning is the judgment of life and death, so they daven a very, very long Ma'ariv. They really talk to Hashem with all their hearts, and by the time they finish, everybody's gone home. And that means that they missed getting a bracha from everyone of L'shana Tova Tikasei V'Seichasem La'alta L'chaim Tovim L'Shalom. And also, they missed giving everybody else a bracha. He says it's not worth it. You can imagine, he says, don't spend so much time talking to Hashem, because you want everybody's blessing and you want to give blessings. Because Hashem blesses those that bless Jews. I will bless those that bless you. And you don't want to miss that out. Now that's a big thing. It's not only Rosh Hashanah by night. The wishing people good Shabbos on a Friday night, on a Shabbos day, have a good Shabbos. That's a big thing, giving Yidden brachas. Of course, we should remember what Rav Miller says, having mekabel kol adam b'sever panim yafais. Rav Miller says there's 3 steps to a good Shabbos. The first one is that you should show him your panim, your face. Don't go, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Look at the person. Give him your attention. It shouldn't be a robotic good Shabbos and you're already looking at the next person. It should be yafais. It should be with a smile. And he says the third thing is besaver. It should be with thought. Don't just say robotic good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, it says, you know what, when you go to sleep, you shouldn't fall asleep early, then wake up in the middle of the night and toss and turn and finally fall asleep at 6 o'clock again and come late to davening. You should have a good, nice sleep. You shouldn't fight with your family. You should digest the food well. You shouldn't have acid reflux. Your Shabbos table should be with Zmiris and Torah. B'sever, a good Shabbos, give up B'sever. But this I never said before. The Oisri Lagefen says a very exciting gematria. It's a very interesting. I never saw this. The gematria of bracha v'simcha, to give a bracha with happiness. Bracha v'simcha is 586. It's the same gematria as shofar, which is 586. The koyach of giving a bracha to your children, for example, with joy. Bracha v'simcha has the power to confound the satan like the shofar. Or giving a bracha to your friend. Bracha v'simcha is exactly b'gematria shofar. V'chagoyisem chag. You should make a festival, right? There's 3 times a year. We make a chag on Pesach, on Shavuos, on Sukkot. In Shiur Hashirim, there's a pasuk, Mayofu pamayich b'na'olim bas nediv. How good are your feet in shoes, daughter of the philanthropist. That's the pasuk. Mayofu pamayich b'na'olim bas nediv. Now, the literal meaning of this pasuk is it's applauding the Jews that went aliyah l'regel, that climbed up to the Har HaBayis from all over 3 times a year. So ma yafu pamayich, your footsteps in shoes, bas nadiv, O daughter of Avram Avinu, who was the nadiv, who was the philanthropist, who was the one that had a tent with 4 doors on the 4 sides, who had the Eishel, Achila, Shtia, Lina, or Achila, Shtia, and Levaya, right? Rav Elyashiv asks, but why, when it refers to the mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel, does it refer to Avram? I mean, we're known as the Bnei Yisrael, because, Avram also was the father of the Arabs. So why does it say Bas Nadiv? Why? Now, the most simple answer to this question, probably, is that Avram Avinu was the first one to do heroics to travel to Eretz Yisrael, right? Because it says, Avram was given the challenge, Lech lecha me'artzcha me'malatcha me'beis avicha el aretz asher areka. Areka is Eretz Yisrael. I told you that my Zayda told me this word. He told me he told it over to the Stipler Gaon, the Keles Yaakov, Zechzav Kosh Bracha, Reb Chaim's father, and he really liked it. If you take the mole of Areka, that means you spell out Aleph, Aleph, Lamed, Fei, and Reish, Reish, Yud, Shin, and Aleph, Aleph, Lamed, Fei, and Chaf as Chaf and the Fei, the gematria is exactly Eretz Yisrael. So Areka was really Eretz Yisrael. So Avraham Avinu was the first one to go Aliyah L'Regel. So maybe that's why it says Bas Nadiv. But Rav Elyashiv gives a different answer. Rav Elyashiv says that the reason is because one had to go Aliyah L'Regel with shoes. And we know this because the Gemara Pesachim on Nun Hamad Bey says that that's why it's allowed to be mesakin shoes on Chalamayid in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel. And there were aniyim that couldn't afford shoes. And therefore there were always generous people that would buy shoes for the poor in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel. And therefore he says that's why it says Mayafa Pamayich Banadavim Bas Nadiv, because it's following in the footsteps of Avram Avinu, who was a philanthropist, in order to make sure that people had shoes. And indeed, Rav Zilberstein says that there were people that supplied free shoes for people on Yom Tov, and Rav Zilberstein said he wanted to have a chelik in this mitzvah, Zeicher L'Mikdash. And I remember fondly that my first shver, Aaron ben Moshe, Reb Aaron Gelbtuch, would have a minig that he would give shoes, buy shoes for a big family, for all the children of the family, before Yom Tov. And that's this pasuk of that says, "Mayofu pamayach ben olim bas nadiv." Why bas nadiv? Why bas Abraham? Because of this act of philanthropy. And I want to say that it's a very big thing, I believe, to give the poor money for shoes. You know, can you imagine a family with a lot of children that they have to go to the shoe store and get 3 pairs, because they have to get Shabbos shoes, weekday shoes, and sneakers. And for 10 children, that's a hoin rav. You have to know that it's brought down that we make the bracha of she'asa likol tzarki on putting on shoes. That's why some people don't say she'asa likol tzarki on Tisha B'Av until the afternoon. Our minhag is we say it even in the morning, but some people don't say it until the afternoon. She'asa likol tzarki. Now some say this is because the shoes are the last thing that you put on. You put on all your clothing, and the last thing you put on is your shoe. So since that finishes it off, that's considered she'asa likol tzarki. Others say it's because if you have to walk outside without shoes, then you feel the pain all over your body. Whatever it is, we see that the shoes represent she'asa likol tzarki. Hashem takes care of all of my needs. So somebody that gives shoes to the poor could expect a beautiful midah keneged midah. So I think this is a very important point. Now, I want to say that I'm not giving Musar over here to anyone to make it sound that I'm not included in this. I give this Musar to myself as well. Today, many people consider themselves foodies. There's a new phrase. It's a more of a modern phrase. A foodie, you know, they're into food, they're into wine, they're into steaks, they're into how the steaks are prepared, and they're into, you know, different type of fries and different type of lattes. Foodies. Now, to put it in perspective, when I went to be Menachem Avel Rav Miller, the Rebbetzin told me that for 65 years, the Rav did not open the refrigerator. Whatever she gave him, he ate. I said, I don't know if I could do that for 65 minutes. So I heard this morning, when I had the Shiur to daven with the Kruller Rebbe, I heard from the Kruller Rebbe that his father, the Heiliger Reb Herschel, the Spinker Rebbe, never went into the kitchen. That was his minhag. He went up to the kitchen if a poor person came, so he took him to the kitchen, but he never entered into the kitchen. Again, it's an idea that he wasn't that involved with food. Now today, we are involved with food. But at least we should do it with the right things in mind. We should use it as a vehicle to make a good bracha, to have a good benching. We learned earlier that the Asher Yotzar, in the previous share recently, that the Asher Yotzar, the Chassam Sofer says, is also a bracha for on the food. We should have in mind when we eat the food that we should learn better, that we should daven better, that we should be healthy. We should have in mind that when we eat the food, the Gemara in Bava Basra says, Ish yinovev yilovev. A hollow person is indecisive. So we should have in mind that when we eat the food, we should be able to make better decisions with our family. We should eat food and show that we're makpid on the kashrus. V'chag lo yisem chag. So here on this, I want to show how Asay L'Chorav is so important. These 2 shilas that were asked to Reb Zilberstein, and his conclusion on both of these shilas are things that I could think of arguing on. But just so important to have somebody who has the shikul adas to answer your questions. They're beautiful shilas. They're shilas that show the beauty of the couples who asked this shilah. One couple came and asked him, they don't have any discretionary money, and he wants to buy his wife a new dress for Yom Tov, because it says, "V'samachta b'chagecha ein simcha" for a woman, ela b'begadim, and she said she would rather that he buys himself a new kapata, because he teaches Torah barabim, and it would be nicer if he has something new. So Rav Zilberstein said that the husband is right, he should buy it for her. Because when it says v'samachta b'chagecha, that's talking about a gashmiya simcha. And the wife's new frock will give her gashmiya simcha. Having her husband buy a frock because he's teaching Torah, that's a ruchniistic simcha. That wasn't the kavanah of v'samachta b'chagecha. Now, of course, you see that you could argue on this and say, what do you mean? If you buy him the kapata, both of them have simcha. He has simcha, he has something new, and she has simcha to look at her husband that he looks good. The next question that he was asked is, again, the same thing. It was a different couple. They had no discretionary money. He wanted to buy her a new frock for Yom Tov, and she said it would be better for me that you pay up. We owe people money. It would make me more happy to start paying the people that we owe the money. And then again, Rav Zilberstein said she's right, because the money for her new clothing comes from a different pocket. It says that Hoitzas Yom Tov Eina Min HaMinyan, so that you should use it for that. Again, here again we could, say, if the person that's owed the money sees that the woman is getting a new dress, he might have a taina. You owe me money, how could you buy? This is a known thing that many of the paskin that a person who owes money has no right to buy a fancy esrog. Should buy a kosher esrog. You're not allowed to buy a fancy esrog. You want to be mekayim a hidden mitzvah on the back of the person that you owe money to? While we could question the shikul adas over here, but the bottom line is you see how important it is to have a rav to ask your questions. We want to thank you for joining us. I make a mention that the Q&A that we gave in the Yirgan Shiur Torah so far is available on TorahAnytime.com in an audio version. Emirtz Hashem, it should be available soon in a video version as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good Shabbos. We are going to now do the Mishnah Yomis.